Amen.
It doesn't matter than 5-6 minutes, 7 minutes.
Rabbi,
5 minutes is not 15.
he wants to go.
Not me, you want also, you said.
No, I
This
love
guy
it.
wants to go.
Vayar Balak ben Tzipor.
Okay. To tell him once he gets it.
Vayar Balak ben Tzipor, Eis Kol Asher Oso Yisrael V'Amoyri. Vayover Moed Miyoy. And Balak ben Tzipor, he felt intimidated. He was fearful. He saw what the Klal Yisrael did to Amoyri, how they beat them. Vayover Moed, he was very intimidated, frightened. So he undertook a whole negotiation, and he wanted to hire a contractor, not a construction for destruction, Bilam, to hire Bilam to destroy the Klal Yisrael. We always say that the only real lesson that we learn from history is that we never learn a lesson. To destroy, he went out to hire a Bilam to destroy the Klal Yisrael. There was at one time, even though the horrible Spanish Inquisition, but Spain had also a history of being a Oyev Yisrael. There was one particular emperor, monarch in Spain who was very friendly to Yidden, to Jews. And one evening, there came to him a couple of priests that he should decree that every Jew has to cast overboard their Judaism, being a Yid, and they have to convert to not Christianity. So he said, I'll tell you, he says, I know the character of the Jew. He says, the Ribcha Nestavri, the Jews, he says, if you try to intimidate them, to force them, über Gewalt, he said, they'll do just the opposite. They'll make them cling to their heritage even more. That's not the right approach. He said, the approach is not game with business. You have to try to sell them on the merits of Christianity. They're intelligent people. He said, you get much further than if you try to force it upon them. They were sitting and discussing back and forth the merits of which approach to use. It was the night was late. It was almost midnight, and the Rav knew that the only one, the emperor knew the only one walking the streets that time of night would be the Rav of the town. So he said, you know what? He says, why should we sit here and argue all night long? He says, let's go out in the street, and the first Jew that passes, we'll use that as a barometer. You'll approach him and try to sell him on the merits of Christianity. If you're successful, you know you'll be all right. If not, you better forget about it. He was certain, and he knew something that they didn't, that the one coming along was going to be a Yid, a Jew, and they're no match for a Talmud Chochem, the Rav of the town, they're no match for him. So he thought he's safe. They walk out in the street and they're waiting, and all of a sudden, who comes along? Not the Rav of the town. For some reason, he went home earlier, or he was still detained. There came along a balagola, a wagon driver. A deal was a deal. He can't back out. Was on Easter. So the wagon driver, they pulled him over, and they said to him, you know, look at this, these two priests. It's after midnight. You're struggling. What are you doing out now? Struggling after midnight to make a living. That's only for one reason alone. It's because you're a Jew. If you give up your heritage, and you'll convert, you'll become a Christian, a Catholic. He said, you'll go in gold, we'll help you get a good job, we'll help you with all sorts of, they promised him all kind of luxury, all kind of comfort. So, and they tried to tell him a little bit about the merits of Christianity. So he said, I'll tell you, I'm not much of a philosopher, I'm not that well read. Everything that I know about life and business is what my father taught me. He told me when I said, I buy a horse, I sell a horse. He said, my father told me like this. He says, if someone comes along and he wants to trade your horse, his horse for your horse. And he says, he tries to tell you that his horse is such a wonderful horse. My goodness, it carries such a workload, it eats very little, whatever salesmanship. And he said, you can entertain it. He says, a disaster won't be. You might lose a couple of dollars, might make a couple of dollars, but it won't be a disaster. But if someone wants to make a deal with a horse, with your horse, and he says that besides that, he says, I'll even with your horse, I'll even give you a couple of dollars along. He said, oh, that's a swindle. He says, stay away from it. He said, well, there must be something wrong with that horse. He said, Christianity, being a Catholic, has so much going for it. Why do you offer me so much luxury and so much comfort? There must be something wrong with it. So you see, with the crowd, so even the wagon driver, even the Balagoda, the Chanetzi gave him with those that consider themselves intellects and very well written. In conclusion, they tell that Franz Joseph, after the Cantonist movement, when the communists in Russia, when Soviet Russia, when they instituted the Cantonist movement, they tore away Jewish children from their parents and brought them up as goyim. They should eradicate every trace of Judaism from their childhood, from their upbringing. So the Tsar of Russia met with Franz Joseph, and he reprimanded him. He says, you know, look, I'm trying to do everything else to destroy the Jewish people with the Cantonist movement. And at that time, he made the first Jew a lord, a baron. He said, and you're making lords out of them, making barons out of them. He says to the Tsar, he said, believe me, I have the same idea in mind also, to destroy Jews. But he was more successful. I was making them, giving them comfort and luxury, or you by the Cantonist movement. History tells the rest of the story that from every Jewish child that was torn away from his parents and the Cantonist movement, each and every one of them remained loyal and faithful to the faith. They remained Yidden. And all of those Jews that they made barons and lords, not one of them remained a Yid. Chanani ben Akashi Oimer.